Hello, my name is Nishat Noor and welcome to Millennium Headlines. This week's top headlines are President Obama's statement on Iraq, what life is like in Baghdad right now. Woman is found hanged in Indian state. 50 years on, U.S. school segregation still casts a shadow. Bachelor party makes rare Mastodon fossil discovery. Mayor Bill de Blasio presides over bill signing ceremony. Texas home teetering on cliff dangles while burning. Ukraine vows to punish rebels who downed plane. Dozens of Gazans join hunger strike to support Palestine's prisoners. President Obama said Friday that he would make a decision in the days ahead about whether to use American military power to help the besieged Iraqi government stave off collapse at the hands of Islamist insurgents, but he ruled out using ground forces. This poses danger to Iraq and its people, and, given the nature of these terrorists, it could pose a threat eventually to American interests as well, Mr. Obama said of the offensive now threatening Baghdad. We will not be sending U.S. troops back into combat.
I want to take some time to give you a quick update about the situation in Iraq. Yesterday I convened a meeting with my National Security Council to discuss the situation there, and this morning I received an update from my team. Over the last several days, we've seen significant gains made by ISIL, a terrorist organization that operates in both Iraq and in Syria. In the face of a terrorist offensive, Iraqi security forces have proven unable to defend a number of cities, which has allowed the terrorists to overrun a part of Iraq's territory. And this poses a danger to Iraq and its people, and given the nature of these terrorists, it could pose a threat eventually to American interests as well. Now, this threat is not brand new. Over the last year, we've been steadily ramping up our security assistance to the Iraqi government with increased training, equipping, and intelligence. Now, Iraq needs additional support to break the momentum of extremist groups and bolster the capabilities of Iraqi security forces. We will not be sending U.S. troops back into combat in Iraq, but I have asked my national security team to prepare a range of other options that could help support Iraq security forces, and I'll be reviewing those options in the days ahead. I do want to be clear, though. This is not solely or even primarily a military challenge. Over the past decade, American troops have made extraordinary sacrifices to give Iraqis an opportunity to claim their own future. Unfortunately, Iraqis' leaders have been unable to overcome too often the mistrust and sectarian differences that have long been simmering there. And that's created vulnerabilities within the Iraqi government as well as their security forces. So, any action that we may take to provide assistance to Iraqi security forces has to be joined by a serious and sincere effort by Iraq's leaders to set aside sectarian differences, to promote stability, and account for the legitimate interests of all of Iraq's communities, and to continue to build the capacity of an effective security force. We can't do it for them. And in the absence of this type of political effort, short-term military action, including any assistance we might provide, won't succeed. So this should be a wake-up call. Iraq's leaders have to demonstrate a willingness to make hard decisions and compromises on behalf of the Iraqi people in order to bring the country together. In that effort, they will have the support of the United States and our friends and our allies. Now, Iraq's neighbors also have some responsibilities to support this process. Nobody has an interest in seeing terrorists gain a foothold inside of Iraq, and nobody is going to benefit from seeing Iraq descend into chaos. So the United States will do our part, but understand that ultimately it's up to the Iraqis as a sovereign nation to solve their problems. Indeed, across the region, we have redoubled our efforts to help build more capable counterterrorism forces so that groups like ISIL can't establish safe haven. And we'll continue that effort through our support of the moderate opposition in Syria, our support for Iraq and its security forces, and our partnership with other countries across the region. We're also going to pursue intensive diplomacy throughout this period, both inside of Iraq and across the region. Because there's never going to be stability in Iraq or the broader region unless there are political outcomes that allow people to resolve their differences peacefully without resorting to war or relying on the United States military. We'll be monitoring the situation in Iraq very carefully over the next several days. Our top priority will remain being vigilant against any threats to our personnel serving overseas. We will consult closely with Congress as we make determinations about appropriate action, and we'll continue to keep the American people fully informed as we make decisions about the way forward.
An Islamic extremist threatened Baghdad. Residents of the Iraqi capital are fleeing on foot, emptying grocery stores and hiding in shelters to escape from the bloodshed. Typically crowded streets in Baghdad were nearly empty today, except for police officers manning checkpoints on major streets and outside mosques. Also visible are men who have volunteered to join the fight.
Answering the call to jihad, crowds of Shiite men swarmed recruitment centers, ready and eager to take on the Sunni extremists of ISIS, who have captured 2 major Iraqi cities in as many days. We will go to Mosul, God willing, this young volunteer said, to kill and defeat them. It was a scene being played out across the country as Shiite militias mobilized to fill the vacuum left by the rapidly collapsing Iraqi army. We must protect our holy sites, this recruiter shouted. Anybody who can take up arms should do so. The call to arms came from Iraq's top Shiite cleric Ayatollah Sistani, who said that protecting Shiite shrines is a sacred duty. ISIS has already announced its intention to destroy those shrines as it continues its push towards Baghdad. In Mosul, Iraq's second biggest city, which fell on Tuesday, militants showed off their newly acquired U.S. equipment, abandoned by the fleeing Iraqi army. In a statement, they announced that they are implementing strict Islamic Sharia law. Women must stay at home, cigarettes and alcohol are banned, and the hands of thieves will be cut off.
The body of a 19-year-old woman was found hanging by her scarf from a tree in a village in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh on Thursday morning, the police said. It was the 3rd similar gruesome discovery in the state in 2 weeks. Relatives of the dead woman, who was last seen alive Wednesday, have filed a report alleging that she was raped and murdered by 2 men who they say have been bothering her, according to Jagdish Singh, an official at the police station where the complaint was filed. 50 years ago, U.S. Supreme Court established the right to public education for all races. But in rural Virginia, black students were shut out of school for 6 more years because the county closed down the public school system.
Public schools have been closed.
Bobby Kennedy, outraged, raised money to open the so-called free schools to educate these children until the courts acted. And in 1964, they did. The Supreme Court forced the schools to reopen for the first time, establishing the right to public education.
Mayor Bill de Blasio holds hearing and signs Sandy partial property tax abatement bill and holds hearing on traffic safety.
Thank you everyone for being here today. And I want to thank my colleagues, Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, Council members Ignacio, Rosenthal, Greenfield, Cabrera, Ferreras, Levine. Have I missed anyone? Not yet. Okay. I want to thank them all for being a part of the event today and for all they did on the pieces of legislation we're discussing today. First, I want to talk about a piece of legislation which is so important because it provides additional support to victims of Sandy, people who have waited for so long for fairness. And once again, due to the good work of the City Council and the state legislature, we are taking a step that is very important for so many homeowners who have fought so hard to get back on their feet. While that's been happening, I do want to note we continue our commitment to improving the city's Build It Back program. which did not provide the results people needed until December, and now we have continued our commitment to greatly intensifying its efforts. Between January 1st and May 28th, the Build It Back program sent out 174 reimbursement checks to cities to families that need them, out of a grand total that we have committed to of at least 500 by Labor Day. So this effort is going very, very impressively now. That is compared to just 0 reimbursement checks as of January 1st. So I want to thank the whole team that's working on resiliency and recovery efforts. Bill Goldstein, my senior advisor, Amy Peterson, who runs the Housing Recovery Office, and Dan Zerilli, the director of our new Office of Recovery and Resiliency. They're all doing a great job getting all of this on track, and complementing that is this extraordinary legislation today to help folks who had to find their own way back. And the important point about this law is we understood that so many people were doing all they had in their power to get back on their feet to rebuild their homes. We wanted to make sure they were treated fairly, and unfortunately, unless this law had been passed first in Albany and by the Council, there would have been a case of double jeopardy, where hardworking families struggled back on their feet, improved their homes, got them back together after the devastation of the storm, and found themselves suddenly, therefore, in a higher property tax condition. The beauty of Intro 360 is it addresses this head-on. It provides property tax relief to New York City residents who repaired or rebuilt their properties severely damaged by Sandy, and make sure that they do not have to pay extra in taxes simply because they got themselves back on their feet. I want to thank our Finance Commissioner, Jacques Jiha, and his staff, who worked very hard on this issue with the Council and others, and did a lot to bring us to this day. Now, they try and see if they can make it as complicated as possible and trip me up. So there's a whole team that works on this. Okay. Now we will go to the signing desk, and we will sign.
Great. This was the governor's pen. Little nice, pretty nice.
You know, our taxpayer-conscious, taxpayer-friendly pen. If the taxpayer felt that pen, they'd be upset with the state of New York. Our pen's just fine. Okay. Okay, here we go. She's actually a council member, right? Yes. Yes, that number. Hey, there you go. Yeah, don't text her. Old school here. Who's got? I don't know. We have that kind of money. Okay. More? Anybody? Okay. We'll finish it down. I'll put that one aside for anyone that wants to have it back. Mr. Lanza, yes. Well-deserving Mr. Lanza. And there we go. All right.
A luxury house perched on a cliff with a spectacular view of Lake Whitney has started falling into the water. The edge of the 4,000 square foot residence and overlook court was dangling about 75 feet above the rocky shoreline after part of it had already broken off. Soil and other debris could be falling occasionally from the foundation of the home. Dozens of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip have launched a hunger strike in solidarity with Palestinian prisoners inside Israeli prisons and detention centers. Around 120 administrative detainees began their hunger strike on April the 24th. People at a bachelor party on a lake shore in New Mexico stumbled upon a rare fossil, the skull of a mastodon. It is considered to be an ancient elephant, complete with tusks and teeth. Scientists have believed the mastodon has lived 300 million years ago. Thank you for watching Millennium Headlines. We'll see you next week.